What's up, Garrison? What's up, bro?
Hey Jason, what's up?
How's it going? How's it going? There's one of our special guests tonight, Gabs, the amazing Gabs. Welcome, Gabs. Thank you for coming to the forum tonight. Neo. There's Matthew. You know who we're missing? Cats. We're missing some cats. Yes, Mar?
Nothing, was just saying hi.
How's it going?
It's one of those days. It's hot. My gosh, I'm not doing well with this heat. I'm
Oh,
ready.
really?
No. I mean, it's cooler in my house now, but when I got home, it was miserable. And it was pretty hot outside. So, and I think it's going to be worse tomorrow, and I'm dreading it.
I'm only gonna laugh because Garrison and Gabs deal with worse heat than we do, so I can't complain. I just can't, Mar.
It's still hot, I mean, I know I shouldn't complain, but it still is hot.
I mean, how hot is it in Texas right now, Gabs?
I am
Oh,
in Seattle right now. Still, not Seattle. I'm still in Port Townsend, north of Seattle.
oh, you're with that. Okay, so you're used to
Yes.
this heat. Okay.
Yeah. Let me tell you, there's no air conditioning, so I'm not super excited about the fact that I'm still hot with no AC.
You get it. Like the next house I get is gonna have central heating and air conditioning, but it probably won't be in this area. So wherever the heat is, I need that AC.
Are you in Washington?
Yes, Tacoma,
Oh, oh,
Tacoma.
okay. You should have come out.
Well, I had to work when you were doing that. I couldn't.
Oh, man.
Next time I want to. Please let me know when you're out here doing stuff. I want to support you completely 100%. And I would have been there bodyguarding. I saw what happened over there. They were showing, I would have been like, back off, Jack. Man, that ain't right. You know what I mean? Like, I'm glad you're there supporting it. By the way, did you hear the latest news that mayor is a pervert, Gabs? The mayor of Port Townsend.
We already knew that. I'll tell you about that. Give me 5 minutes, because I got to get situated. I just finished cooking for my lovely host, and so I need to
Nope.
round
Nope.
up
You
my
do
round up
you.
my stuff here.
And at 9 o'clock is when I'm just gonna hand over the mic and have you talk about. You could talk about all this stuff, Gabs. I want you to, and I'll just jump in when people raise their hands and work with you. It's your night. I'm so honored to have you here. So, Kelly, go ahead.
Hey, I was going to say, Gabs, it's raining out here. You're missing it. And, if you ever need a bodyguard, you can call me.
Can I join you, Kelly? Can we both bodyguard for her?
Well, don't forget, Gabs and I live in Texas, so,
Definitely. I meant, it's annoying to
Well,
me.
funny thing is, though, I could go anywhere and still handle myself. All I need is a stick.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Give me a bat.
Yeah.
I'm good, man.
Well, and I don't even need a bat. I mean, I still practice with my old nightstick, so there's always that.
Yeah, I have a bat flashlight at my house, and anytime there's noises outside, I'll run outside with my bat flashlight at night. And it's metal, so I mean, it's heavy, so I mean, I'm ready. It's not very big, you know what I mean? But it's.
Why do you think cops carry such a heavy flashlight?
Yeah, you need it. Neo, go ahead, buddy.
Well, I mean, just going back to the whole heat thing is that I'm a snob over here, and I'm telling you guys, make sure you always don't. Everybody does heat pumps these days. Geothermal is absolutely stupid amazing, and that's what I have. If you have the property to do it, then geothermal is stupid, because 5 feet under the ground consistently is always the same temperature, and it's actually cheaper than heat pumps. Everybody does that, and they consistent. So I'm saying my geothermal system is just dumb.
Well, that's cool. I'm glad that you're not suffering like the rest of us and Mar up there over there in the corner.
I'm wearing a sweatshirt.
What's up, buddy? Welcome to the forum. You have your hand raised.
Sorry, I was having connection issues for a second. Hey, how we doing?
We're good. We're gonna have a good evening and have a lot of fun. It's gonna be different, but
sorry, I was having connection issues and somebody was talking to me just really quick, so that was my bad.
By the way, everybody, next week Let's is our co-host. We're honored to have him be helping us co-host, so it'll be great to keep going. And Jeannie's back. I'm so glad you're not.
The weather here. Let's? What was that?
What were you gonna say about the weather?
I was gonna say the weather has been it's been a little bit cooler, so that's good for me.
That's a good thing. It really is. I wanted to Cats. You see, Cats. First of all, we haven't heard you talk yet. How are you? Are you alive over there?
Of course, I'm alive. I have central air. I'm not trying to rub that in, because I wouldn't do a thing like that now, would I?
Yeah, you would.
Got little old cats. It was 99 earlier today, and it's 90 now, but well, I don't feel it here.
I bet you your cats love having central heating and air conditioning.
Oh yeah, once in a while I catch them laying on the register, because the two of them have long fur, and they probably get a little hot. I think that's kind of funny when they do that.
I think my furry one would do the same. He doesn't like heat. He likes it cool. But our little tiny one, she likes heat, and she'll lay in the garage. Will be like 100 degrees, and she'll be out there, and we're like, oh no, you can't stay out here long. You can't. You get in the house, because she'll just be out there laying out there.
Yeah. I hope everybody's doing okay. It's good to be here and see everybody.
I wanted to ask you, we Cats, Jeannie's been gone a couple weeks, and she was in the hospital, and we're really honored that she's back. How are you doing, Jeannie?
I'm still kind of sick, but every day my recovery's getting better. I had a really bad, I don't know what you call it, sinus, throat, and lung infection that they figure I picked up in California somewhere on my vacation. So I'm getting better. It's just going to take a while. It really zapped all my energy. And my daughter had moved me to her house, where she has central air too. So I'm sitting in the lap of luxury, and it's very nice. So I'm doing okay. And when I was in California, I bought a foot pool, a pool that's just for your feet. And my granddaughters actually got it out today and blew it up, and we all sat outside and did a little foot baths when it was hot. So it was kind of cool. So, it takes all kinds.
Well, we're glad you're back, and we're going to keep praying for you to get better. And
thank you.
You're like a part of the family, so we just want to make sure you're doing okay.
It's going to be a slow process, and I'm fine with that. I have very good care here, and so I'm all good. Thank you so much for saying that, and thank you to everybody, and God bless you all, for those who believe. Thank you.
So, Mar, you can have a final comment, and I've got a couple things to do, and we'll do an opening topic. Kat has Reducation, and then I'm going to I'm going to read a Bible parable, and then we're going to pass off to Gabs at 9:00. So, go ahead, Mar.
I was just going to say, Cats, thanks for rubbing in the air conditioning. I do have air conditioning, but it's portable. And Jeannie, I didn't know you were ill. I'm really sorry. I'm praying for you. I hope you get better quickly.
Thank you, Mar. Appreciate it. Yes, Jeannie, you. I'm just glad to hear your voice again. I just want you to know we missed you. So,
Yay, Jeannie.
all right. So, I want to let me go to this real quick. So, the Conservative Political Forum, our motto is, where's it at? Hold on. I got to find it, guys. I got a lot of things. Got a lot of things going on here, so I try to find our stuff. Oh yeah, the Conservative Political Forum, where everyone has opinions, but we work to find common ground. That is our mission statement here at the Conservative Political Forum, and I think it's a really good one. And we're just going to keep working on it. And I'm going to keep doing my best to just kind of lead and run things in a way where we just have a good space. I don't. I was in a space the other night with my buddy in the room here, Garrison, and we were like, man, sheesh. So we don't like that. We want smoothness going on. So here's the opening topic. Let's go right into that because I want to ask you guys your opinion on this. So my opening topic, and I just lost it, but it's fine. We have a lot of division and divisiveness going on, and I'd like to see how we can learn to work together and in a way that can help everybody. And it seems like we've got three different categories. We've got the Democrats, we've got conservative Republicans, and we've got super mega conservative Republicans. How do we come together? That's my opening topic. How do we find a way to get back to coming? Because there is a way to do it. I believe there is. Kelly, go ahead. You were first.
Well, I don't think we have three divisions. I think we have the central Democrats and Republicans, which are very well able to work together. But then you have the far left, and then you have the far right, and those two will never come together. But the best thing to do is to be kind. I have a neighbor down the street. Well, at the moment, she's not down the street. She is in the hospital down in Houston. But she's a Democrat. And, when she needs something, I try to be there for her. We can talk about politics. We can talk about religion. And neither of us ever get mad at each other. We just talk about things. And ironically, she has told me I made a mistake when I voted for Biden. So, but just talk to each other. Don't get mad. Now, I'm going to be the first to tell you, don't take kindness for harmless, because if somebody gets in my face, I can break out a level of evil you don't want to deal with. But for the most part, just be kind to each other. Just listen to each other. But so few people want to do that.
So few people what, Kelly? Oh.
So few people they don't want to give up or concede that they might be wrong. And so you kind of can't talk. I mean, I'll be honest, I'm very entrenched in what I believe and how I feel, but I will listen to someone else as long as they're polite and respectful. I had the same philosophy when I worked in the prison. I will be respectful to you unless you give me a reason not to be. But there's a lot of people that can't seem to do that. If you don't agree with me, you're absolutely horrible. And that is not going to ever fix where we're at.
That's true. I feel like that is not going to fix where we're at, and we have to learn to figure out how we can get along. Jeannie, you had your hand raised next. Go ahead.
Hi. I just think there's another division too, and I think it's the Never Trumpers. I don't think you actually, there's the MAGA people, and then there's the Never Trumpers, and I think the Never Trumpers are doing a disservice. They are, as far as I'm concerned, I consider them Democrats. I think what Liz Cheney has done in the last, 6 months is disgraceful, and there's no way I can be kind to that kind of thing. I mean, she needs to be honest with herself. She is no Abraham Lincoln. Uh, she's entitled to her opinion, but I'm entitled to mock the crap out of her as long as she's in public, in the public eye, because I think what she did was wrong. You could see, but you don't have to be a trailblazer and, try to knock down, 70 million people thinking that, everybody's going to go your way. I thought that was unkind of her to do that. And, all the other, pundits that are the Never Trumpers and all the Democrats on CNN and MSNBC are just, and on the Hill and, are all sucking up to Liz Cheney, what a wonderful person she is. No, she's not. I'm glad she's gone. And I mocked her and I celebrated last night that she lost by such a huge margin. And obviously, Wyoming felt the same way. And that's all that counts is what Wyoming thought, really.
It's true. Here's the thing, though. I want to know how we come together. We have got to. I mean, we're not going to agree on everything. None of us. I always use the same term, Jeannie. That I'm married, and my wife. We're two different people, right? So there's got to be points where you can come together with people. That's the biggest thing. And yes, Liz Cheney. I hate. People say you can't say hate. I can say hate if I don't like her. I hate her dad. I hate the Bushes. I mean, I'll just go down the list, but we don't have all night, So, Cats, go ahead.
So I think that there's a number of divisions. I don't think you can really. It's definitely not three. There's a lot more than that. But at any rate, I think that everybody needs to get back to the old adage, agree to disagree, because people just seem to have forgotten that. I mean, there's this outright hostility if you come across or they perceive you to be, a conservative, or they label you a Trumpster or whatever, and maybe you're not, but it doesn't matter. If they perceive that of you, then the claws come out. And for no reason, really, other than that you believe differently than they do. But if we come back to agree to disagree, and people will behave like civil adults. I mean, there are going to be things that you're just simply not going to find common ground because, like, let's say abortion, you probably either are for it or against it. Now, there are going to be some people that think in different degrees. Like, there's going to be some people that think um, early term abortions are okay, but for some, there just simply isn't going to be any common ground at all. Now, there's other things, like we could say, let's take some kind of a law they're trying to pass. Well, if you had time to read the law and it wasn't 80 billion pages long, you might find that somewhere in that law, there's some things that you think are good ideas and that you can agree on, and that's fine. So there are things that you could find something to agree upon, but there are also many instances where you're simply not. And that's when you agree to disagree and just behave like a civil adult and move on. That's it.
And that's good. I agree with that. I'm tired of us arguing over the stupidest things. We may not agree. We're not going to agree with everything. My Democrat buddy down at the bottom there, Colin, he doesn't agree with me on everything, but we have common ground. Right, Cats? We do. We find common ground with our Democratic friends. That is what is important to me, and it's that we've got to stop fighting with each other and bringing hatred, because that divides our country even more. Mar, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, I like what Katz just said, but I like to further elaborate on that. Is there does need to be some more communication between people. People need to learn how to talk to each other and understand what each other's trying to say. Also, there needs to be accountability brought back into society. Like, there's no consequences for any actions anymore, and people really need to see that your action has a reaction. And with people getting away with everything basically now, there doesn't seem to be any reason to straighten up your attitude or do the right thing, because you're just going to get away with it anyway. So there needs to be accountability. And I really honestly believe that we need to bring God back into the center of our lives again, because people need to have a moral compass again. And I think that's what's lacking in society, is people are lacking morals and consciences. Consciences, is that right word? Anyway, they lack the ability to understand what they're doing is right or what's wrong, and we need to get back to that and make God our focus. And I know not everybody's going to do that, but you can at least have a moral ground and understand that, hey, you know what, you might not want to do that, and you might just want to keep to yourself. And I think that would be better, and it would help for people to get along if they just use common sense judgment like that.
And I agree. And for the people down there that are requesting raised hands, everybody's got a speaker right now. So I'll try to get you guys up when I can. Please hang in there. Nikki's down there. Nikki's another Democrat that, come on now, we don't agree on everything, but, Nikki's cool, huh, Kat? We've learned some cool things about him, haven't we? Kat? Oh,
absolutely.
all right. So we got some raised hands. We've got 8 minutes before we go to the next segment. So try to make your comments as concise as you can, please. And Let's was next. And then down at the bottom, after Let's, is DR McThickens. So go ahead, Let's.
All right. So let's get right into it. The division, the division is just so massive. And I actually had a conversation with my grandmother today. I went to see her today, and it was on my mind. And we were just talking about the division in this country. And she showed me this video called Hindsight 2020. I don't know exactly what it was, but it was this kind of nice video. And she was like, well, I mean, I don't want to say my real name, but she just said my real name. And then, so we then just continued to talk about how divided the country was, and how ever since it seemed like COVID, that things just got worse. There was, what Mara was saying, no moral compass whatsoever. People are getting away with things. There's just so much that is dividing us severely on these issues. And my grandmother, she's a moderate Republican. I'm more of a Trump supporter Republican. She voted for Biden. I voted for Trump. So she has a little bit of she's kind of a moderate Republican in a mix with an independent. And, I was able to find common ground with her. I was actually able to inform her on certain things that she didn't know before, that were actually kind of big, because she still kind of she did agree with me on some of the stuff. But I think it's just understanding each other, because even if you can't find common ground, you need to be able to understand each other. Because I've seen people ruin relationships, tear into each other. I've seen Twitter comments that say, "I'm glad I haven't seen my son in 5 years. He's a maggot," as in MAGA. It's quite sad how what I'm seeing. And really, you got to understand what people are going through, and that they have their own opinion. And if you just continue this division because of your own ego or your selfishness, you're really not doing yourself any favors, because that's what's really hurting us. We need to find understanding with each other, because that is the key to having common ground. That's the key of having a democracy. That's the key of really having a country working. It's understanding one another and understanding how the country should be working and run. That's what I personally think.
Thanks, Let's. Appreciate your opinion on that, and I agree. Drake, Dr. Drake.
What's going on, man?
Hey, what do you think of this opinion of coming together, finding common ground?
Well, let me ask you this. I'm going to ask you the questions for a second. I'll keep it short because I don't have a lot of time. Hey, what's the root of our division in our nation?
Well, you tell us. We're
Well. I mean,
you tell us what you
it's
think it
very,
is.
very simple. It's very, very simple. And I'm not picking on you. I'm just using you as an example because you're a friend of mine. So I feel like I can use you as an example. So as I was listening, you kept pointing out your Democrat friends, right? You didn't call them your American friends, your fellow Americans. You didn't call them any of that. Now I
Well, they
know
are
there
my
was no,
friends, but they're
but
Democrats. You know what I
but
mean?
it doesn't matter. But why should that matter? We're all Americans. We're all one people. The reason why it matters is because the Republican and Democrat, the two-party system or the uniparty, whatever it is you want to call it, I call it a uniparty because they are one and the same. It is by design to keep us divided. So whenever we have these conversations, we should not be calling people Republican, Democrat. It shouldn't matter. It should only matter what their opinion is, not who they vote for or who they choose not to vote for. That's it. See, that is the root of our division. How do you kill a weed? You have to kill its roots. If you don't kill its roots, it never goes away. The only way that we're going to end this division is we have to kill the root of the division, which is the party system, which we never were supposed to have anyway with the way our country was structured. It never was supposed to exist. But men with big ideas that were the elites at the time chose to structure parties to take away a lot of the constitutional rights and the power of the people. Fast forward 200 and some odd years, here we are. We are a divided nation. We have one side that hates the other side that hates the other. You know, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. When the answer is real simple, if you want to kill the problem, you go for the root of the problem. It's literally that simple. We as the people have all the power, not the Republican Party, not whoever you elect within the Republican Party, not the Democrat Party, not whoever you elect within the Democrat Party. It's we the people. But we the people only have the power, the true power that we were supposed to have. The way the Constitution was written, the way our Bill of Rights was written, if parties do not exist. So why we keep going back and forth, Republican, Democrat, Republican, Democrat, I'm a Trump supporter, I'm a Biden supporter, I'm a whoever the hell it is supporter, none of that matters. We have to start thinking as one people. That doesn't mean we all have to have the same ideas. We just have to see each other as brothers and sisters, as an Americans, not as a party affiliate. And that's basically all I have to say.
Thank you, Drake. I appreciate your opinion on that, and I do agree we need to see each other as brothers and sisters. And
Jason, 99% of what I said wasn't an opinion; it's facts that can be looked up.
yeah. I hear you. No, I got you on that. We're about to get into run into Kat's segment of Reducation. Kat's, what I'm going to do is people looks like they want to finish this topic out, but I'm going to let you run it and then go into your Reducation segment so that we don't run into Gabs time. But I'm going to do, before we do that, is that okay, Kat's, if you take over and let people finish? People that have their hands raised are the last ones that can raise their hands for this. Then we go on to Kat's other topic. But are you okay with that, Kat's, continuing on with the question until you've got all the hands answered?
Sure, but everyone is going to have to be brief.
Yes, that's what that's what I'm saying. But before we go to that, we're going to go over the forum guidelines for the Conservative Political Forum, because we have a set of guidelines here that helps us to stay on track so that everybody is freely able to speak here. So as freedom thinkers here in the Conservative Political Forum, we believe in and value our constitutional rights. We recognize that even amongst ourselves, there are varied opinions. This forum, though, is a safe place for all of you. We don't tolerate personal attacks or raised voices. We also ask that you are considerate of people who do not want to hear profanity. Please be self-aware of your mic time, as we want to ensure that everyone has a chance to contribute to a particular topic. So Kat is probably going to do rapid fire conversations, so please keep your answers brief on this so she can have time to do her Reducation. Go ahead, Kat, take it away.
Okay. And, I wasn't expecting to do this, so I'm not sure whose hand was up first.
You just call on the people the people's hands that are up are the ones that you can call on, and you can call on who you want because you're a co-host.
Okay. Jeannie, go ahead, please. Jeannie. Hey, Jeannie. I don't know what's up with Jeannie. Nikki, go ahead, please.
I think Dr. McThickums had her. Is it with McThickens?
I was
Student
just gonna
Dr.
spare you.
McThickens. She had her hand up for a long time.
Yeah, I was gonna spare you. Okay, look, the name is really funny when you read it when you got to say it out loud is cringe. So
Dr. McThickens, come on down. Yeah.
I'm embracing the nickname, okay? I will keep it brief, I promise. But this is just one point that I feel really passionately about. I love discourse. I live for it. I live for debate. I live for differing opinions. I like hearing what other people have to say. So, one thing I have learned when I do try to engage in discourse is you've got to come to these contentious topics with some level of humility, right? First of all, you need to understand that nobody can know anything for certain. None of us do. You have to be able to come into a conversation knowing that you might be wrong and be receptive to the possibility that someone else could have a point, right? And you need to be able to admit when someone with an opposing view has a point. And when you do that, it lowers someone's guard. It lowers their reactivity so that they're also more receptive. If you make someone feel more comfortable to talk to you, more than likely you'll be able to get through to them. But as soon as you start with inflammatory discussions or, patronizing or being condescending or just downright disrespectful or throwing out insults, you're going to harden that barrier and their mind will be so thick, there's no getting through to them. And the conversation ends there. So that's one thing that I see on Twitter, especially, but this is a really important topic and it's sensitive for a lot of people, right? Like there are people out there who don't feel that their minds match their sex or whatever. And I could understand how that would be it would be hard for someone to go through. So we've got to come at those kinds of topics a little softer is with how important this thing is, right? So having some humility, knowing that you could be wrong and being able to admit when you're wrong, it gives you more credibility and gives some sort of ground for you to have an actual conversation.
Thank you. Welcome to the forum. A little late, but thank you for that. I liked what you had to say. Jeannie, are you back yet? What's up? Nope. Nikki, are you there, Nikki boy?
In one form or another, I'm always around. I never really leave. But I'm sad that Colin was the only person who reacted to that. Okay, Kelly gave me a little bit too. Thank you. So I have a bit of an interesting perspective on this one because I am a fan of multi-party democracies, and there are some in other countries. The notion that you can have a political system without parties is farcical. Because even in places where you do not have official parties, you still have organized groups that, for all practical purposes, act like and resemble parties and manage pretty much all of the same actions, just without the same sort of formal structures in place, which allow for people, especially underrepresented people, have a path to power within those groups. So, for example, in my city, for city council, it's a city that's overwhelmingly Democratic, like 80% plus Democrats. So there's never going to be a political divide along party lines there. But there are two groups, basically, of individuals who fight for power on the city council and have in the same organized groups. And they've been around since like the 60s, one of them has. And so, and they raise money together and they, but the difference is that when they're coming up with like who should be, quote, on the ticket for city council, it's all done in back rooms. There's no formal nominating process. It's just, who are the influential people? They get together, they sit down, they decide. And if you're not one of them, well, it's not going out to the voters or the people who are stakeholders in the party. It's just a couple of successful, wealthy people who get to decide for basically everybody else. Yeah, these are going to be the 4 or 5 people that represent us. Parties give an organized process that is fair, that it has rules toward determining the question of like, who's our nominee going to be? And in a world where we don't have them, where there's no party nomination, you essentially give that power over to the rich, the well-connected, and the politically influential, because those stakeholders end up being the ones who determine who the nominees are going to be. And that's why I like parties, not because, there are a lot of shitty things that parties do and there are a lot of problems that they have, but the absence of them would be demonstrably worse.
Thank you, Nikki. That was very interesting. Jeannie, last call. Otherwise, I got to move into Reducation because we're running out of daylight. Jeannie, are you there?
Hello?
Yeah. Did you have something to say on this real quick? Because I got to move into Reducation.
I'm going to pass because I know it's into your time. Thank you so much for bringing me back. Bye.
Okay. All right. So Reducation is a short segment. It's only 30 minutes long. And I'm not going to read the guidelines. It's just basically a quick point counterpoint about an issue, that a topic I choose that is important to many Americans. But last week I decided to do something different, which is why I'm not going over the guidelines. However, we had a kind of a smaller base of people in here, and so I wanted to go back to it again. So what I did was a top 5 items to fix what ails the country. And one of the members who isn't here at the moment is going to make a graphic campaign to get these items to elected officials. So, based on what feedback that I had last week, I revamped the top 5 a little bit. I mean, it had pretty good reception, so I didn't make a lot of changes. If you raise your hand and you've got, an opinion on the top 5, I will take notes on what you said. So I'm going to go ahead and read the top 5 as it stands right now. So again, remembering that this is after the November election, when we get whoever is going to be elected into place, then I want to have a campaign to restore what ails the country. So, and these are not really in a particular order. Number 1, including age.
Cats, your internet is, you are breaking up. Does anybody else hear that?
Yes.
Okay, it's not just me. Okay, your internet is, we missed a lot of what you said. start at number 1 again?
Number 2 is stop or reverse all wasteful government spending in bills passed since January 20th, 2021, including aid to Ukraine. Are you hearing me better? I just wanted to check.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Could you go for number 1 and then go again, though, Katz, because we didn't hear it, please?
Okay, number 1, restore energy independence. Number 2, stop or reverse all wasteful government spending in bills passed since January 20th, 2021, including aid to Ukraine. Number 3, restore proper and lawful border procedures. Deport all illegals who entered unlawfully since January 2021, unless they can be vetted properly per the law. Number 4, members of Congress and elected state officials work in tandem as appropriate per their roles to restore the criminal justice system and make sure we have election integrity. Number 5, ensure all government agencies function as true bipartisan entities following the Constitution. Did you guys need me to repeat any of those?
No, I think we're all good.
Okay. So then again, I'll take notes on your opinions or, if you have suggested changes. Jeannie?
Some of the things that you mentioned, some of them I believe were state issues versus federal issues. And obviously, in the state of Washington, there's a lot of things that we can work on that has to do with what you were speaking of. Obviously, immigration is a federal issue. And yes, that should be priority number 1, at least getting a base as to what rules are going to be enforced. Are we going to enforce our laws, or are we going to do Bidenization where you don't do jack crap anything? I think that's a good place to start, immigration. And I think we really need to work on the energy independence, which is obviously something the federal government has a lot of control of, and the state should have some control of that as well, and they can do their part. uh, what was the other one the things that have to do with the economy, I think should be in there. This last bill that was passed was just, in my opinion, just one big heap of trash in order to get green energy up and going. And it probably has some good points, but it also has some pretty lousy points. And they need to fire all 68,000 of the IRS employees they just hired.
Yeah, amen to that last one. So when I wrote this, with keeping in mind there's so many things, that aren't going the way we want them to go. There's so many things that feels like someone's trying to make America as we know it, and our dreams and our hopes and our freedoms go away. So for example, while the economy is tanking, and I don't really have something that says fix the economy, my number 1 was restore energy independence, because I could be wrong, but I think that the whole economy issue kind of trickles down from that, because it's like dominoes. One thing causes another. So that's why I do not have specifically something that says fix the economy. Perpetual, welcome to the Conservative Political Forum. You go ahead, please.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes. So I wanted to contribute, not in a logistical sense, but more in a motivational sense. I think a lot of these right-wing circles are very masculine dominated, and I think when I see these kind of spaces filled with women who are really essentially taking the bull by the horns, showing up at school board meetings, showing up at polling stations, this is what the regime really fears. And this is why they go after any male who has any influence over women, the likes of Chris Rufo, James Lindsay, etc. They have no fear of men, posting misogynistic comments online. They have fear of men who genuinely inspire women to show up at these, whether it be polling stations, whether it be school board meetings, whether it be these kind of various situations to affect policy, to affect change. And this is, as a man at least, I just wanted to express a certain sense of not necessarily admiration, but just a kind of sense of affirmation that this is exactly how it's done. This is how a revolution with regards to how our schools will be changed, how our healthcare system will be changed, how our policing system will be changed. It'll be changed by women like you, showing up, doing the work, and being bold, ready to stand up for your principles. And I think, especially on Twitter, you will see a lot of men ready to, in essence, denigrate or, talk down with regards to what exactly you're doing. But that's the opposite of, that's not real. This is the real way of achieving change. Anyway,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Perpetual. That was kind of you to bring that up, and it is a good point. And it to me, it doesn't matter if you're male or female. You need to take action. You need to do what it takes to change what you feel is not right. And so all of us are responsible for playing a part in making life better for ourselves, our families, and everyone else. Colin, I believe you had your hand up next, and please go ahead.
Children should be seen and not heard. Sorry.
Nikki.
Thank you for saying that for me, Kat. That's exactly what I was about to say. So, Kat, I actually want to ask a question about the context for this list. You're saying that this list is a list that the next Congress should plan on trying to get done. Yes? That's what this list is?
Yes, actions that we want to see done if at all possible, depending on if it's appropriate for federal legislatures or state representatives to act upon to restore America. Yes.
So I think you're going for two big, like, talking point issues. Like, in my opinion, maybe it's a bit far from grasp for maybe Republicans to get done. What Republicans should truly focus on is three things. It is trying to be a check on Biden and trying to maybe say, oh, you want this budget? How about we make sure this budget doesn't do any of this stuff that we don't want it to do. Let's say we don't want it to increase the national deficit. Let's say that's what their goal is. That's something that the Republicans should focus on if they want to reduce inflation and stuff like that. That's the stuff they should be focusing on. They shouldn't be focusing on social issues when they have power over Congress, because social issues are just going to divide us more. Where economic issues, I feel like we could the midterms, this is how we could gain in the midterms to help you guys. That would help Republicans do better in 2024 is economic issues.
So I thought that you said that you had three things, but I felt like I was really only hearing one.
That was, well, I actually said two things. I said focus on economics, how you guys should focus on economics. Also, if you do want to attack a social issue, do your version of what you guys think gun control should look. Whether that's try and get rid of all gun control or maybe lax barriers. That's what you guys should try and do.
Okay. Thank you. And again, everyone, I'm taking notes on what you're saying. So I appreciate it. I think Jeannie was next. I believe.
I think Matthew was.
Okay. Hey, Matthew. Good to see you, and go right ahead, please.
Likewise, Kat. Good to see you too. I think there is a social issue, and that should be maybe included in this list. And I didn't know I was going down this road until I heard Perpetual, some other things that have been going down recently. And I'm going to start with something very specific, but I think there's some other legislation and acts from the past that could be added on to this. Group of people right now in this country that are under attack, and it's and it's not getting talked about a lot, especially by the mainstream media, and that's women. And when I say women, I'm talking about biological women. And I'm seeing some really Orwellian stuff going on right now, and I think it's just scratched the surface. So what I would start with as far as an act is a clear definition that Title IX is specific to biological women and biological women only. And maybe you piggyback a clear defining and reaffirmation of the original Civil Rights Act and other acts that clearly spell out, because there are men right now, and I'm not here to say if you want to identify them, you don't have that right. That is your choice as a human being, and I'm not here to trample on that. What I am here, though, to say is that you do not have the right to start infringing on the rights of women. And I think this is actually, and we talked about earlier on the onset about something that could bring together both sides. This is actually one of those issues, because I'm seeing some strange bedfellows. You've got people who are Democrats that are ardent feminists in hand with conservative people, women and men, that maybe on the opposite sides of a lot of political ideologies, but this is one issue that could really bring together a big majority. And I'm kind of at a halt on where I might go further with it, but I think there needs to be something clear about really defining true rights for women.
All right, Matthew. Hey, everybody, just as a reminder, I have a hard stop at 9 because we have a special guest, Gabs. So that means I only have 5 minutes. Jeannie, what you got?
I'll pass again. I'll let Nikki speak.
Am I being called on? I didn't want to jump in without permission.
Yeah, my screen
Yes,
was
it's your
going
turn.
wonky. I couldn't get to my button. Yes, please, Nikki, go on.
Awesome. So I just posted 2 screenshots of Pew Research polling in the deck on the question of trans acceptance. And there's really 2 pieces that I want to highlight from that. The first one is that in general purpose polling of the American electorate, women are more favorable toward trans people than men are, and they are overall net favorable to trans rights. And then among Republicans, specifically among Republicans, women are 4 points more favorable than Republican men toward trans rights. Obviously, it's a much smaller number, but I would think that if women, even Republican women, as our last commenter makes it out to be, that you would see a greater concern among Republican women than you do among Republican men, or at least the same concern. I think there's a very specific slice of women in this country who feel threatened by trans people. And I think there's a very specific slice of men in this country who feel very threatened by trans people. And they talk about it because what they can't say is that they are uncomfortable with the idea of hitting on someone who, doesn't have below the waist what they think they do. That's what really bothers them. Now, I'm not saying that's true for the particular person who was just commenting, but I don't see in the data the kind of concerns that the previous commenter was bringing up in terms of his.
Okay. So Nikki, I'm sorry to cut you. I actually think, and I'm going to encourage Jason to potentially consider this as a topic, next week or whenever, based on his schedule, because there is a lot to explore, and I definitely agree. So we got 3 minutes. 3 minutes.
Well, can I just say, we have a person in the room right now, the co-host, that has been through a lot, and she's about to talk about some things about transgender stuff, and I'm gonna let her speak her mind, because she's been through a lot. So I'm just saying that, Cats, because I don't really have to say anything when I've got the amazing Gabs next to me who's been through it. So I'm just gonna let her go there. You know what I mean, Cats?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great. That's wonderful. Okay.
Wait a second.
Jeannie.
Gabs is going to talk about transgender issues? She never does that.
You have a trans person.
You're funny.
Jeannie, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it's been determined, I'm pretty sure, and Nikki will probably disagree with me, that a lot of polling that's being done lately is not very valid polling, because Republicans as a whole don't like answering pollsters' questions. And there's data to back that up. I don't have it to put on the Jumbotron, but a lot of the polling lately is kind of skewed to Democrats, and it's not fair to use one poll in order to determine, because you can pick and choose what polls you want to use to uh, voice your opinion. And so I just want to say that polling right now, because landlines aren't there, it's cell phones or it's surveys over the internet, they have not perfected that like they did with landlines from 20 years. So let's have a kind of a truce when it comes to polling, that it's not always valid.
It's just
Okay,
jump in real quick. It's called the Bradley effect, and it's been around since at least the 1980s, if not more. It's a political science term, so look up the Bradley effect.
Thank you, Garrison. So
partisan response is what she's talking about. Bradley effect is whether.
Okay, so I got 1 minute. Kelly, did you have something?
Quick, because I haven't seen some of you in a while. So I want to say hi to Nikki, hi to Colin, and congratulations to Garrison.
What happened with Garrison?
Yeah, what happened to Garrison?
He's getting married.
Garrison got engaged.
That happened a while ago.
She hasn't been
She
around for a
said
while,
she
Colin.
hadn't
Give
been
her a
here,
break.
been
Sweet of
here
you
in
to
a while.
say, Nikki and Colin, way to shove off on that. But thank you, Kelly. That's very sweet.
Okay, so it's 9 o'clock, and I said I had a hard stop for Gabs at 9. I want to thank everyone for your contributions on the list. I will work on revamping it again based on your suggestions. We'll see where we come out. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Katz. Before we go to Gabs, a couple quick things. We kind of went through a transition. We will have our stuff on YouTube and Rumble. Katz and I are working on that, and we do have a political forum email if you want to email us at theconservativepoliticalforum@gmail.com with your ideas and updates. And so just remember that. But we love having all of you here. It's such an honor. Before I pass it off to Gabs, because I feel like this is just an important Bible verse for me to talk about. I wanted to read a quick parable. I won't take too long, but it actually kind of goes with this fight that Gab's going to be talking about, because we're really in a fight right now. So let me just do that real quick. Thank you for letting me do that. It is, I try not to overload you with the word, but God is my source. So sometimes I'm going to probably go farther than you might want me to or not, but it's okay. You guys can hear it. So in Luke chapter 18 is a parable. It's called the persistent widow. And it says, and he told them a parable. I ought always pray and not lose heart. He said, in a certain city there was a judge who neither feared God nor respected man. And there was a widow in that city who kept coming to him saying, give me justice against my adversary. For a while he refused, but afterwards he said to himself, though I neither fear God nor respect man, yet because this widow keeps bothering me, I will give her justice, so that she will not beat me down by her continual coming. And the Lord said, hear what the unrighteous judge says, and he will not, and will not God give justice to his elect, who cry to him day and night? Will he delay long over them? I tell you, he will give justice to them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Sons of Man comes, will he find faith on the earth? I bring that up because we are in a battle in our country, and I believe it's good and evil. And tonight, I just want to say that I'm honored that Gabs would come to our room to talk. I feel like our small little forum, which I love everybody here, and I'm always glad that you guys come to the forum. And Gabs is here tonight to talk about indoctrination. And Gabs, take it away, tell your story, and just thank you for being here. It's such an honor to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. Well, so what I am in Port Townsend, Washington right now, and over the last 4 or 5 days, we organized a
Miss
well, it
Cass,
was
what you doing? She suspect.
Mimi,
That's
get
not
out
sounding
of
like
here.
me. See? She suspect.
Who's
Don't
that,
let her
Gabs?
in again. Don't let
Okay.
her in again. She's a clown.
Okay,
Um,
gotcha.
she just
I'll
she
remember that.
don't let her in again. She's a clown. But I mean, she's funny and everything. It's just she'll interrupt the whole time. We talk in other spaces, but this is a serious conversation. So, um, anyway, so we came to Port Townsend, the founding members of Rev Fox. That's my new organization we just launched last week. I'm one of the members, as is Jennifer Thomas and Amy Souza. Amy Souza just so happens to be friends with a lady named Julie Jamon. She's 80 years old, and she was swimming at her local Y, as she's been doing for decades. And she got in the shower, took a shower, and there was the sound of a man's voice in the background while she was in the shower. So she got out and saw a man in a woman's bathing suit in the women's bathroom watching the girls get undressed, watching these little girls get undressed. And she, was rightly annoyed. And she told him to get out immediately. He wouldn't do it. And so she went and the the staff, and the staff told her that she had to get out, and she has since been banned from the YMCA. Democrat. She's never, uh she was voting for, what am I saying? She was fighting for civil rights and women's rights in the 70s. This is, I mean, of course, if you know anything about places like Port Townsend, Washington, there's no conservatives that live here, not very many. So this is one of those towns where everybody is pretty much liberal, or like progressive or whatever. So it was very bizarre to me to see, when we went to speak on behalf of Julie at the town meeting, at the city, at the what do you call it, the city council meeting. When we went to go and speak with, Julie at the city council meeting, it was very bizarre for me to see that, for one thing, I was one of the very few conservatives in the whole town. I'm one of the only black people in the town. You know what I mean? As of right now, I haven't seen very many black people. I haven't seen very many conservative people. It's just really, very, um, like Bayberry, kind of. You know what I mean? Like it reminded me of that. I even, talked to this lady in the grocery store, and I got in the car and I said, I just met Aunt B, because she looked just like her. Like, she had the little hairdo and everything. So, it was really shocking for me when we had the press conference. What happened was that, all of these 80-year-old women came out, and 80-year-old men came out to speak for Julie, and proclaim that, they fought to have sex-based rights all those years ago. And now, now that's becoming something altogether different. Um, and it is misogyny. It is the new misogyny. It is the new sexism, because we're not talking about women doing this. Okay, these are men coming into women's spaces, and no, they're not wanted, and no, they're not even tolerated. It is terrifying to be in the shower as an 80-year-old woman, with the only thing that's protected you from being seen by other people is a thin piece of plastic. That is terrifying. And to hear a man's voice in a place where you think that you don't have to worry about that sort of thing is terrifying. One of the things, as an advocate and an activist for indoctrination, is that I have seen the just abject failure in safeguarding on so many different levels, because everybody thought that that good idea to be kind. But if you're kind enough, the people who do bad things will take advantage of that kindness and do bad things. And that's kind of what we're seeing all across the country. There has been too many instances of sex-based rights violated as it pertains to women's private spaces, and those violations end up putting women in jeopardy, children in jeopardy. The number of rapes that has occurred since men have been allowed to be in women's spaces is just unbelievable. Some of these, and some people would say, well, the majority of that kind of thing happens because of a relative or a family friend or something like that. Yes, that's because those people have privacy and access. So what do you think a bathroom is? That's privacy and it's access. So we're doing everything we can to push back on this. And yes, I do believe that the first order of business for every politician needs to be, at the federal level, needs to be giving a clear definition for Title IX of what a biological woman is and what a biological man is, since we don't have that as a definition and it's not defined. It needs to be. In my view, that will put an end to all of this nonsense. I have such a problem with this because they have turned gender into a religion, and they're expecting us all to believe in their religion. Your spirits or your feels or all of that whole business. Okay, fine. If you feel like that, great. Go feel like penis out of my bathroom. You know, that's how, and I'm a conservative woman. I'm a lifelong conservative. I've never, ever, ever voted for a Democrat. And I'm sitting in here with two Democrats. Well, one independent, one Democrat and one independent. And I can tell you that if there is ever a uniting issue for all the women in this country, this is it. This is it. Because I've been working with RAMs. I've been working with even male feminists. Y'all don't know how many times I've had to hear the fucking patriarchy. I'm sorry, I know y'all don't do the cussing thing, and I'll try to keep that under. But the patriarchy. Do you know how many times I've had to hear about the patriarchy? I'm not a feminist, but I have to be around feminists. I'm around gay women. I'm around straight women, bi women, even trans identifying people who have been trans since long before this gender woo woo stuff and knew that good men stay out, so bad men stand out. So if there was ever an issue to unite people, the indoctrination that has gone on in our society that has paved the way for little girls getting their breasts cut off, or 17-year-olds uteruses removed, or young men being told that their everything will be fine if all they need to do is take these hormones, and then finding out that it's atrophying their penis, so they'll never have complete function again. I mean, those are the kinds of things that the indoctrination of our society has led to. And we're already seeing the aftermath all over the world. So, so yes, women all over the world have been reading about this for years. It's just that because it was feminist, nobody was listening to them because a lot of them are insufferable. But they're not wrong. Men shouldn't be in our spaces ever. And I don't care what dress they have on, I don't care how long they grow their hair. Does anybody have any questions?
Looks like there's a few people with questions. Colin's had his hand raised. Do you want him to? We can start with Colin.
Go ahead.
So I have two questions for you. First one, it would actually portray to your initial story about the trans person in the bathroom. In this story, I actually do believe there is a hole in this story. How old is the person, or how old does the woman who this story is from believe that trans person was?
Honey, I can't tell you what she believes because I'm not her. But the kid is like 19 years old. That guy.
Okay.
If that's what you're asking me, he's
Yes,
been
that's what I was
trans
asking.
okay, he's been trans for about 6 or 7 months. His name is Clementine. We don't have anything against Clementine. Nobody has anything against that guy. It's just, it wouldn't matter what kind of guy it was. We don't want a guy in the bathroom.
Okay. So as somebody who works at a pool for 3 years now, I am sorry for that lady that she did get thrown out of the YMCA. I feel like those workers were a bit misunderstanding of the situation. But I would say that this is a new world we're living in, yes? I believe all of us can agree with that.
No, there is no new world where a man needs to be in my bathroom.
That's not a man, it's a woman.
No,
It's a man that is transitioning to a woman, Colin.
Yes,
It's a man.
If somebody says they're a woman, they're a woman.
No, that's their feeling. That's not that. You are fully sexed when you are born. You are fully sexed. And his sex is male. And every single cell in his body is still male. The fact that he produces small gametes makes him a male. He is a male. He can feel however he wants to feel. And let me tell you something, as a woman who lived with a cross dresser for 2 years and was a stripper and a dominatrix, honey, I do not have any kind of transphobia at all. I do not want men in my bathroom.
Okay. You also said that you've been talking with all sorts of people. Have you ever talked to somebody in high school who is currently identifying as trans?
My daughter, I helped her successfully desist. Yes, and I speak with parents all over the country. I've actually created a webinar to help parents help them parent their children into desistance. So yes, now I've done this for a long time, and I am, you know what, and I don't toot my own horn, but I am the leading authority in this subject in the world.
Gabs, you didn't answer my question. I
No,
asked if you've talked.
I did say that.
No,
I
you
have.
asked. You
No,
said you
I
talked to
did.
parents
My
who are
daughter.
helping their kids. You never actually talked to somebody who's currently
Yes, I
trans
have.
and
My
currently.
daughter was trans. She was
I said
identifying as
currently.
trans.
She was trans. I'm talking
She
about.
was identifying as trans. I helped her to successfully desist.
I still.
Gabs, can you go into that story a little so maybe they can understand it? I know we got hands up. Keep your hands up, guys. But I think, Colin, you need to understand that Gabs is not new to this, buddy, and she knows a lot. So go ahead, Gabs.
So my daughter was socially transitioned into thinking that she was a boy. But I knew my daughter wasn't a boy. Like, and even my son is gay. She told him all of her brothers. She just decided she was a boy. But I knew she wasn't a boy. And she was what I call trendering because she's captured, just like so many other children. Okay, so when my daughter started identifying as a boy, um, I had to come up with a plan to help her for number one. Um, I had to help her get off of social media and to get out of the social media addiction and to help her base her life in reality and accept reality in her life. Because one of the things that happens, especially to girls, is they get disembodied because they have body dysmorphia and they're getting into puberty. They're getting unwanted attention from men because they're starting to fill out. They're not liking their boobs because they can't sleep on their stomach. With my daughter, she was having acne really, really bad because of the face mask, because of the pandemic. I mean, all kinds of things can cause body dysmorphia in a teenager. Those were the things that my daughter was experiencing. And it wasn't just her. She had a friend who was experiencing the same thing. And but I knew my daughter wasn't a boy. I mean, she also told she claimed to have all of these different medical conditions that I know she didn't have. She claimed to have she claimed to have gender dysmorphia, and she was ashamed of her body, which I also knew was not true because of all of the things I found in her cell phone. And she was being groomed by 5,000 AGPs in her DMs. 5,000 over all her platforms. So I took all of the information that I had and I came up with a program to help her successfully desist. And once I did that, I told it to others. And in the few months that I have been counseling parents on how to properly parent their child into desistance, there have been people in my DMs talking about how successful that my program has worked for them. And I was also called to a roundtable by the Surgeon General of Florida because I have the only successful and proven program in the world. That's that's what I do.
And that's why I wanted you to bring that up. Do you want to go on to somebody else with a question?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, Mar, go ahead.
Oh wow, there's other people before me. Okay. Wow, thank you for sharing your story. It really touched me. I just trying to process everything you were saying. I totally agree with you. I raised two daughters myself, and I raised a son. And I this can be really personal, but I come from a background where I had some things I overcome from sexually inappropriate advances from a parent, and so I am very, very, very protective of my daughters, and I don't think, and I agree with you. I don't think men belong in the bathrooms either. I feel like girls need to be girls and boys need to be boys. Now, that said, how you choose to live your life is your business, and that's not the conversation I want to have right now. I do believe that girls should be able to feel safe when they go into the restrooms or their gyms or whatever. Like, we even at my own work, we had an encounter where there was a transgender and he had a full on penis still, and he had it like out like when the women walked in there, and it was very uncomfortable for them. And they immediately came to me because I was security at the time, and they're like, "Well, can you do something about that?" And I'm like, "No, it's because they have a right to be there. That's what they identify as, and I can't do anything about it." But it just made them feel uncomfortable, and I don't really feel like I don't want to see another man's penis that I didn't invite into my presence. I just don't feel like it's appropriate. I feel like that should be something that we invite, that we welcome, and it's uncomfortable if you walk in on that, and especially when you're not expecting that. And so, for me, I would have a hard time with my daughters being exposed to that. It would totally piss me off, actually, and I'm protective of them, and I don't feel like they should have to be exposed to that, or my granddaughters. And it's like I feel like there needs to be some kind of way for be who they are, but not intrude on other people's space. And as for grooming, I have a hard time with that too, because I feel like, I mean, my son he wanted to be a Power Ranger forever. He identified with so many things growing up. He had two sisters that dressed him up. And I feel like people should just let children be children and stop putting their ideas and agendas into their heads and let them be kids instead of trying to morph them into what they want and use them as an agenda. And it just makes it hard because it causes psychological damage. I mean, I had to overcome a lot of psychological issues because of things that happened to me as a child. And I don't I don't think it's right to push that on children. I think they should be children. Let them discover who they are at their own terms. If they decide one day that's the way they want to live, that's their choice. If they're adults and they want to do that, that's their choice. It's about choice. It's not forcing people to do what they want them to do. They should choose and just let kids be kids and stop exposing them to things they're not ready for.
What do you think of that, Gabs?
One of the things that I have discovered in this movement is that uh, the majority of the
Oh, I can,
women,
I can go now.
the majority of the people who have been able to speak intelligently.
What?
Go ahead, Gabs. I think we had some feedback because somebody's mic was on. I
On
muted him.
Thank you, who have had some trauma in their lives, right? So people who have had trauma. I had trauma. Lots of women have had trauma. There were, like the other speaker was saying, inappropriate advances by a parent, and it does make you hyper vigilant, and it does make you see how sexualizing children at a young age is detrimental to their development and growth. So, you know, a lot of people who are so gung ho about all of this stuff do not understand the ramifications of what it is that they're saying, because they didn't have never had to go through it, and they don't have children of their own to know what it means to let a child come into their own. So often we are trying to make our children grow up faster, or grow up easier, or grow up um, better. And in the attempt to do that, we have stolen from them their journey. Like, their journey needs to be made on their own, not indoctrinated into them from some other source. So social media, uh, peer pressure, the education system, all of these things are responsible for having a bigger influence on your children than your children's own embodied journey. So that is, and let me tell you something. A long time ago, if and this is also what we're finding. Okay, a lot of these people who are making it so that they have to be in the bathroom and they're exposing their genitalia, we used to call those guys flashers. You talk to one of those guys, they're not going to say they're trans, they're non-binary, okay, and they're identifying as a woman today. so that they can go in there and expose themselves to women because it's legal to do that. There are also men who are raping and murdering, and when they get picked up to go to prison, they're identifying as women so that they can be put in women's prisons. This, like I said, there have always been trans people. There have always been people living whatever way they want to. But when society made it so that we all had to accept it or else, that's when the safeguarding stopped. And the safeguarding became like this culture and this kind of emotional blackmail and this hostage situation that we've found ourselves in. It used to be that, everybody could live however they wanted to live, but we still had these boundaries. Now we're saying everybody live how I say I want to live. And if you have to see my penis, then that's just too fucking bad for you. No, no, I refuse that boundary being broken. And lots of women do.
And Gabs, I was going to say, thinking along those lines, and then we'll go to Dr. McThickens next. I was thinking, as an adult, I don't care what you do, but you start indoctrinating kids, and they're using it as a way to get kids hooked to these things and get them. And kids should be kids, right, Gabs? Kids should be outside playing, living with their families, and not be dealing with that.
Absolutely. I mean, and if it were me, I would outlaw the use of the internet for every child. You know what I mean? Like if it were, of course that's not realistic, but I'm just saying the detriment that social media, the detriment that it has become to our society, and to our children has really, really gotten really intense. And a lot of people don't realize the depth to which it has become such a detriment to our society.
Definitely. No, I agree with you. Dr. McThickens, welcome.
Hey, yeah, thanks for letting me speak up on this. Gabs, I love you. I love you already. I just found your page a couple ago, and I just admire your boldness and your ability to say what many people are thinking, but just unfortunately these days, no one has the cojones to say. And you're unapologetic about it, and you're not intimidated by others. And that video, that clip was just amazing. And you can hear it in the way you speak because it's all true, right? You had said earlier, this problem is something that can unite women across all political spectrums and backgrounds and races and ideas and whatever. Because we know that men in general are just more aggressive, and that's seen across all species, all mammals. The men with the Y chromosome, right? And to me, that's what defines a man, right? If you have a Y chromosome, that the absence of a woman, right? You can have intersex disorders. Oh, that's a whole other thing. I won't go into that. But long story short is all intersex disorders still either have the absence or presence of a Y chromosome, period.
Exactly. Yes. And a lot of people, they've been using, and I have a lot of followers that are intersex, and they don't like being used as a pawn in all of this. That's been a real point of contention with people who have DSD. And there are people who have DSD who are trans. There are lots of people who have DSD who say, "Hey, look, I'm still a woman or I'm still a man." You know what I mean? Like they've been able to clearly define their sex. They have, they have a sexual disorder or whatever. So it's not, you know, the that is also one of those things that has been used to divide us, right? All of those kinds of things have been used to solidify the gender ideology into our lexicon as right, and it is not right. It is a feeling. It is not a right.
Right. And I think that's what happens when there's an objective fact and then there's different perspectives on that fact. And that's what happens when we detach ourselves from reality. That's why science is a thing. That's why we have been able to get to this point as a species, right? With cars, airplanes, electricity, the internet, AI, all these things are only possible because we were grounded in objectivity and reality. And there was a podcast I was listening to the other day. And the guest had brought up a point that really made me pause and think. And it's this idea of that delicate balance between freedom and quote safety. And when I say safety, it's like that statement can really go both ways in any argument, right? So let's take or whoever that was earlier. If he's still here, I hope he is. But if you take kind of his perspective, he's saying, well, I'm an American and, I'm able to live my life freely and as my true self and who I feel I am. And that's fine and dandy. And I think a majority of people would not disagree with that. The issue comes is when your freedom is so vast and so wide that it begins to bleed into other people's freedoms and their rights and their bubble. Your bubble is intruding in someone else's bubble, and that's going to piss people off. And it doesn't matter what the topic is. It really doesn't matter what it's about. If you start stepping on other people's toes, you're going to start to piss them off. And God forbid, let it be kids. Okay? Don't get a mama bear on this, right? As you were saying earlier, kids are impressionable. This is not what I don't understand how this is even. It's hard to grasp. We know how mammals work, right? That's how the brain works. You learn by observing. You learn to speak and walk and eat and dress yourself and all those things by watching others. So when you're in this very fragile age and you've got this phenomena going on and it's cool and it's special and it's unique to be trans. Now we're getting from something that was organic and genuine in the past, right? With that very stable level of trans identifying people to this explosion we see now because it's in vogue. It's a trend. And to not see that is naive. It's just naive. It doesn't mean that you dislike trans people or you don't think they should be able to exist. Yeah, of course you can. But there's got to be that boundary between where your freedom infringes on my safety and vice versa. And that's where the struggle is. We don't want to take away or keep you down, but you can't take away from us at the same time. And one last point before I shut up. The DSD thing was mind blowing when I first saw that argument come up. Someone brought it up to me and I was like, what? Most DSDs from, and see, I understand this as a medical student. Like I had to know about most of these disorders for my board exam. So I kind of understand how they work. And I'm thinking a majority of them are biochemical and not even chromosomal, right? Like your adrenal hyperplasia or your androgen insensitivity. Those are all biochemical levels of things. There's still an X or Y chromosome. It's biochemical, right?
But most people still think that intersex means that you're born with both male and female genitalia. Like most people still think that. Yes, I know.
No, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, like that. Most people still think that that's what it is. I mean, I even was in a space with a good friend who is a good guy, and he's a wonderful person. And he said, "Well, what it is they decide what you're gonna be when you're a baby." And
no, but
I'm like, no, that's not how it works anymore.
I just wish people could just read stuff before they start speaking. Like, if you really don't understand this stuff, then don't. No, what happens is the default sex is female, right? Every embryo starts that way. The only way it deviates from the default female state is if there's the presence of the Y chromosome with the SRY gene that has the testes producing or determining factor hormone. That is what allows the uterus to degenerate and the testes and the penis to form. right? If there's something wrong in that chemical messaging, it's possible for the female default to through, but it's not completely female. Like it might have an enlarged clitoris or something, and it kind of looks like a penis. It's that sort of thing. But if you look at, if you do a karyotype and you look at their chromosomes, it's going to either be clearly XY or XXY or X0. But if it's X0, like Turner syndrome, there's still no Y. It's still a female, you know? So that doesn't really fall into the debate. They're not related issues.
One of my followers is a turn. She has Turners, and that's one of her biggest pet peeves, is that she's still a woman. Like she is still a woman, and she
100%.
yes, and she doesn't. She really it really gets her goat that they use intersex as a justification for the trans ideology. Okay, so is there
So
another question?
Nikki, I was gonna go down because so we'll go down to the people that have been waiting at the bottom, and then we'll go back up to the top if people raise their hands. So Nikki would be next.
So I just want to say first off that I admire you, Gabs, a lot, because like I don't know that I could ever talk about one topic as much as you talk about the trans issue. Like I think my brain would explode. So I appreciate anyone who can be as dedicated to like I hope that like in your when you're not around political Twitter or anything like that you're like talking about gardening and stuff like that with your friends.
There's a lot of crying. There's a lot of crying.
Okay, but I'm just saying there must be some happy like boring stuff in there. Like you talk about cooking or something like that. Like you've got some there's just got to be some, I assume, because like I would be exhausted. And in this is I'm saying if I were talking about like ranked voting or gay rights or any of the number of things that I like, I could not do it as much as you do on a regular basis. It would I would go insane. I respect the passion. It's not easy. The thing that I want to bring up is it feels like half of the time what we're essentially arguing about is, does gender mean sex and does sex mean gender, and who gets to decide what a woman is? So let's stipulate for the sake of this conversation that woman means whatever's in your genome, man means whatever's in your genome, and this question of gender woman, gender man, and gender trans is completely separate from that. That we are talking about a separate label, and I concede the argument that that a person can be transgender and a biological woman, that they can be transgender and a biological man, that I can be cisgender and a biological man. Thank you. Why is that a problem? One, like what is like let's assume that we do that and we just start using different words, and we stop talking in terms of gender, and we just acknowledge that there is biological men, there is biological women, and we don't try to pretend that those labels, we don't try to reappropriate those labels, but we still talk about this stuff because obviously it's still a thing that's going on. We just use different labels. That's one question. The second question is, you want to be in a bathroom with a transgender person, with a man who has transitioned to being a woman. I understand that. It seems like most people aren't uncomfortable with that. Most women don't express that concern in any type of surveys that I've seen, and just in general. And we have single-use bathrooms in this country at most, maybe not all, but like there's usually a wheelchair bathroom. There's usually a bathroom where people can go and like, do the changing, either, change their kid's diaper. Like there's usually a single-use bathroom in most places. So I guess my question is, if being around trans people and the potential of one of the people being in the women's bathroom being a trans person, why can't you just use the single-use bathroom? Anyway, those are my two questions. Thank you.
Well, for one thing, it's not just the bathroom, right? I mean, it's the shower room at the gym. It's the changing room, the locker room. It's all of those things. It's our sports. It's, you know what I mean? It's more than just a bathroom. I was in a wheelchair for years. Okay, and there are still not easily accessible VA bathrooms in every single place. So you know, I mean, that that whole thing that we're saying, okay, this is how it's going to be, and if you don't like it, just go to a different bathroom. It's just completely unrealistic. That's just not a realistic solution. Okay, and not only that, but what you're talking about is a very in a perfect world, in a perfect world, it would only be people who were going into the bathrooms to just go to the bathroom and get out. But that's not the concern. Concern is the safety issue. The concern is the safeguarding. The thing that predators need in order to predate is privacy and access. And by having those boundaries, we had an expectation of safety. And so, yes, there's things would still happen in the bathroom, but it hasn't been happening to the degree that we've been seeing over the last 2 years. Over the last 2 years, we've had, I mean, literally terrible people taking advantage of this situation and putting women and children in severe danger. I mean, if you look at just Loudon was made it so, the issue in Loudon was just so egregious because not only was a young man go into a female space and rape a girl because he was identifying as trans, but also they didn't want anyone to vilify the movement and have a problem with the movement. They hid it, and the boy did it again. You you're the safeguarding that needs to remain in place in order to protect women and children is not, it should not be a negotiable, or should not be argued or debated. Like, this is why we have single sex spaces. And if you look at, like, the issue with the Wee Spa thing, that guy was a convicted sex offender. And his main reason to go into that Wee Spa bathroom was to expose his genitalia to women, to young women, more specifically. And it's not about the trans issue in that regard. It's about the safeguarding that we as women and mothers want our children to have. But there's a whole that a lot of people really don't understand about what has been allowed to take place. So so the there like I said, there are plenty of transgender people that have been around forever, and they've been able to live their lives. We have a transgender person in this room right now who is 100% against all of this, because because when he decided to become a she, he knew, I'm not, this is something that I'm doing because I want to, because I just want to do this. And other people are going to have their own feelings about it. I'm not going to let it bother me. I'm just going to keep on living my life. That's where your rights, you know what I'm saying? That's where everybody's needs to, have their rights. It's just like if you live in an apartment complex, you don't blow a bunch of weed out, and you don't, have a bunch of loud music going on, and you don't have, prostitutes and drug dealers running through your shit, because there's families around there's stuff. You respect the privacy, you respect the people around you. Yeah, you can have all of that debauchery inside your house if you want to, but you also understand that there is a boundary that needs to be observed. And I'm not trying to equate trans with debauchery or anything. I'm just saying it's something that a lot of people don't feel like they want in their lives, and that's fine. I'm a bisexual woman. I like I said, lived with a cross-dresser for years. I was a stripper and a dominatrix. I don't have any kind of hate towards anybody who lives an alternative lifestyle. But I would not go out on my balcony in a state of undress, you know, uh, you know, paddling, my subject, okay, paddling my little piggy out on the porch. My neighbors would not like that. It's rude. It violates a boundary.
And we're here to it's protecting the kids ultimately, right? And I mean, protecting people's kids. I think that's very important. And I know that that's how you feel about that, Gabs. And it's why I respect what you're doing big time. And so I just wanted you to know that. So we're going to Matthew now. Matthew's had his hand up for a while.
Are you kidding me?
We're coming down to you, man. I'm moving down the list.
Is it me that is able to talk? I heard this. Yeah. Are you kidding me? I didn't know
Here,
what that was about.
Hold on, Matthew. You're patient. Colin's patient. We'll go to Nomad. Nomad, I'm sorry, bro, but go ahead.
No problem, man. I just feel like I've been waiting for an hour and a half. Big Gabs. Look, okay. So the indoctrination part is what I hate most of all. I got a little boy. He knows he's a boy. He's comfortable with that. I got orientation. He's gone to school. If you could give me like 3 things to, talk about at orientation, it's all cultural Marxism, in my humble opinion. And, 3 questions at orientation, like I'd be weary of this SEL, right? Social emotional learning. Isn't that the new thing?
Yes, social emotional learning. That's one of the problem areas of education. Yes.
All right, so 3 things, like off the top of your head, real quick, like to I guess ask the teacher or the school system, at orientation.
I can't. There's no way for me to answer that question because they're gonna lie to you. The school is just gonna lie to you. You can ask them, do you teach CRT? They're gonna say no. You
And
ask
then
them,
I could go on to SEL, and they'll probably still say no, right?
Right. I mean, they might say they do teach SEL, but only the good SEL. You know what I mean? Like they're putting it. It's become part of the pedagogy now, and it's become part of the praxis. So they don't teach the the college course of CRT in schools. But
No,
that's
right.
not, that's something, if if you're going to orientation, they're not going to tell you the truth. I could give you, plenty of things to ask them, but you're not going to get a satisfactory answer.
All right. So homeschool would be your best advice, huh?
There's always private schools, there's pods, there's micro schooling, there's lots of different options. There's if homeschooling, I'm going to homeschool my daughter this year, but it doesn't have anything to do with CRT or SEL. She's doing an accelerated program that they don't offer at her school. So I've decided that I wanted, like I wanted her to have a better education. I'm not gonna send her to
Yeah,
public
that's
school,
cool.
but yeah.
All right, so it's everywhere. This indoctrination is so pervasive that you can't really get away from it, right?
Pretty much. I mean, there are some, and it depends on what area you're in. It always depends on what school it is. There are some schools that have been able to protect their schools from it, but there are still rogue teachers who will still, do it. My cousin, her kids go to an elite private school, and she just found out the other day that the counselor has two transgender kids, and they let go of that counselor about a year ago abruptly and didn't know why. And you only need to, if you've been in it as long as I have, then it was probably because she was doing something that she wasn't supposed to be doing. She was a teacher, and I mean, she was a counselor there for over a decade. So there's just there's just no way to know until you get your kid in there. And then if you see stuff and I can tell you, if you see something that you don't like, hit me up in my DMs and I'll find you a lawyer and you can sue them.
Understandable. Thanks a lot, Gabs.
No problem.
All right, thank you. We'll go back to Matthew. Matthew had his hand up, then Colin, and then we'll go up to Honey Badger. By the way, Honey Badger, welcome to the forums. I don't think I've ever had you speak here, but I'm glad you're at our forum tonight.
Well, thank you so much, but I'm a big fan of Gabs, and I will talk later. Thank you, sir.
No problem. I just wanted to thank you for coming. It's good to see you. I've seen you in all the spaces. So, Matthew, my brother, go ahead.
Hey, Jason, good to see you. Thanks for having me in this. I'd be remiss without saying, I'm going to sound like a little school kid here, but I was really happy to see Gabs was joining us tonight. I can remember seeing her school board video go viral, and that's when I started following her. So this is kind of a treat. And I saw what you had to endure, you and the other women in Port Townsend. So thank you for the good fight and keep fighting. That said, I'm glad you spoke, Gabs, to the social contagion aspect of this. And there's contagion going on. I have a 13-year-old daughter. I see the videos that she is exposed to on the phone, and this is pushed like it's like a drug dealer pushing drugs on an addict. It's everywhere, and it's documented. I encourage anyone to read Abigail Schreier's book, because she spent thousands of years and talked to hundreds of people of all backgrounds, including hundreds of transgender people. And 10, 20 years ago, this was, as far as people under 18, this was something that was predominantly in preteen boys, and it was a very minute percentage. And then within the span of about 10 to 15 years, it completely changed to tween and teen girls. And she also found that this was happening in packs. One girl in a group decides to identify as trans, and then others of her social group, follow suit.
That's true. That's true. Yes. That's what we're seeing.
Yes. I would be remiss without also saying, well, the polling shows, let's be honest, this is a very and I made a point of saying it when I brought this up about an hour and a half ago, very underreported in mainstream media. I live in Seattle. Seattle is the metropolitan area that, for those of you who are out of state, Seattle is the metropolitan area that would be closest to Port Townsend. None of the local TV media have reported on this Port Townsend story. And I think back to the black woman in LA who went to the spa and complained because there was a man in the changing room, the spa changing room, and her daughter was exposed to this man walking around naked. That story went unreported. How many of you know about women in a New Jersey jail that are now pregnant. Is that immaculate conception? No. This is going on all over the place. So when you talk about these polls and that most women are just fine with it, I'm going to venture a guess. Maybe that, just like somewhat you wanted to venture a guess that maybe this is possibly a threat to my masculinity. No, it's not. As a man, women are wonderful. And so as a man, when I see women under attack, I speak up about it. So that's that. So back to this polling stuff. I bet you if you talked about some of these scenarios I just brought up, as well as many, many others out there, and asked 100 individual women if they would be fine with going into a changing room or a dressing room or a bathroom with a male, I bet you almost all of them, if not 100% of them, would not be cool with it. So I find it interesting that when women we talk about equality, and women have come a long way from, suffrage and getting the right to vote. But the minute women like yourself, Gabs, speak up and have a complaint or say this is wrong, who is it that's saying, oh no, why don't you go use the separate individual bathroom? It's a man telling you this.
It's a man.
That irony is not lost on me. Just like the majority of the people that were threatening and intimidating you and the other women that were trying to speak in Port Townsend, it was mostly men that and likely some Antifa that infused themselves into that protest as well. It was mostly men that were threatening and intimidating and bullying you. So that said, I'll move on to the fact that you want some real data in polling, look at the fact that you see that generationally, people who identify, it keeps doubling by generation. And yet, the argument that's thrown out is, oh, well, because it's more socially acceptable. Well, that's not how biology works. And I'm going to go with evolutionary biology over feelings any day. And again, I can't help but emphasize that you live your life how you want to live it. That does not mean you get to force your feelings onto somebody and make them deny science and evolutionary biology. So I would encourage anyone to read Abigail Schreier's book. Again, she talked to a lot of people. And if you dig a little deeper on this stuff, where the root of this stuff came from, there's a couple of people that come to mind. We can talk about Albert Kinsey, famously of the Kinsey Report, and the bogus data he came up with, because what he didn't reveal at the time was that the people he was getting from were male inmates, pedophiles, and male sex workers. So his data is a bunch of nonsense. But the real root, and this is a linguistic trick, because up until about 5 minutes ago, sex and gender were interchangeable. It was nothing but a linguistic difference. And a guy named John Money, I encourage all of you to look up John Money and what this guy did. And what this guy did was to push this theory of gender fluidity. He had a couple come to him where they had twin sons, and one of them was born they had a botched circumcision, I believe. And so what he recommended is you raise the one with the botched circumcision as a girl and the other as a boy. Well, in addition to that, he had them perform sex things. This is kind of the godfather of gender theory and a lot of this. He had them perform sex on each other, all these other things. And ultimately, both of these men when they became men in their 20s, they ended up both killing themselves as a result of the horrendous stuff. So the people that push gender theory, it was a very fringe academic thing decades ago. And like a lot of academic theories, it slowly but surely weaves its way into society. And now it's become very commonplace. And the message is, women, you just got to deal with it. Too bad. Bull, you know what. Again, this is so underreported. You don't see mainstream media talk about these incidences like Port Townsend, like the LA thing, like the New Jersey prison. You can go on and on. If this stuff was reported, this polling, so to speak, I think you'd see some different results on it. And Gabs, maybe the question I have for you is what are your thoughts on the media's lack of interest in this, and how do you get more media to start? Is it a matter of more women speaking up? Your thoughts about, because I really think if there was even a remote interest in the media, this dynamic would change a lot. But the media doesn't seem interested when an 80-year-old, it's the 80-year-old woman's problem to that she dare have to share. It's her problem.
Before Gabs does that, real quick, Gabs, I want to ask Matthew a question. Matthew, do you think if it wasn't for Dory Monson, the only kind of neutral guy, this story would be even less anything about a story, because it was on Newsmax, but I think it was because of Dory that it got on Newsmax. What do you think? And go ahead, Gabs, you can answer that, because I do agree the lack of media attention on this story is outrageous.
You're absolutely correct, Jason. That's the only way I knew about it. And I'm pretty, ear to the rails on stuff, especially, we all get wrapped up in the national stuff, but I kind of pride myself in knowing what's going on locally here in Seattle and the outlying Puget Sound area. And him and maybe a couple other talk radio guys are the only ones. I can definitely confirm. I broached this question earlier today, and the answers I got, nobody has seen our three local affiliates of the three major networks have done anything on this story.
And I agree with you. That's why I asked, because I live in Tacoma, Washington, Gabs, and he is right. It's like crickets. The only way we know is that Dory guy told you about that keeps having the 80-year-old on his radio show, which I think is great to get the story out. But go ahead, Gabs. Go ahead and go on.
Thank you. Thank you, Matthew. Yes, the reason why Julie Jamon, it wasn't because of because because how did Dory, what's his name, Dory Monson,
Dory Monson, yeah.
yeah, Dory Munson, how did he know about it? Right? The only reason why he knew about it is because of Amy Souza. Amy Souza is one of the founding members of Red Fox, my organization, along with myself and Jennifer Thomas. And we've been fighting this together, and we're ahead. We're a group of people who have very seriously different views on lots of different things. We're different political backgrounds. We're different. There, it's not. We there are some of our founding members are anonymous. So we 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 put the media engine to work. And I use my media connections, and Amy her media connections, and Jen used her media connections that we already had. Actually, the first person to mention anything about Red Fox was me on what was it? I think it was Fox Business on the Varney and Company. But you know, we all use our following on Twitter and our following on social media to get the story out. Like and some of the English turfs, on Turf Island. So that was the way it was brought to the forefront, was big from just by our sheer will. And because it would not have been picked up otherwise. Julie Jamal stood out there for a week with a sign before anybody said or did anything. And yes, Antifa was there. Julie Jamal has a sprained ankle. I have an injured finger. There are some other injuries that, but there has been one arrest so far. There will be another couple of arrests in the coming days because they did these were this at this thing there were 2 dozen octogenarians locking arms to protect Julie, to protect Mama Julie while she was speaking. And so, and really, I mean, if we're being 100% honest, even with Dory Monsoon's um coverage, it still didn't get national attention until Redux put it out. And some of the women from uh, uh, Independent Women's Voice, and just some of these independent journalists started really pushing it. Abel is in the transitioner. Abel Garcia, he's in the space right now. He worked behind the scenes. There were lots of us who pitched in to push this out and to get it out into a bigger, wider audience. Julie Jamon's daughter didn't even want her to do any of this because she was afraid for her safety. This is the reality. I went to the grocery store earlier today, um, to get foodstuffs for dinner. And while I was there, I saw two of the women who were at the protest. One of them tried to create a crowd, and it backfired because the people around her were like, we don't want no, they were like, no, honey, we don't want that. And but they didn't come to the protest, but they weren't, and so, I mean, the reason why it's not going to be covered, and it's not going to be covered until every woman starts standing up and saying, you know what, I'm going to just stop being quiet. I'm going to stop being silent. But that was the same way for CRT. I filed the first federal lawsuit against woke indoctrination in America. And do you think that anybody would have said anything if the black woman hadn't come out and said no first? I mean, that's kind of where we're at. That's the reason why Gays Against Groomers has jumped in on this situation. And all of the Brandon Stracas of the world are saying no to this. Blair White and Buck Angel down in the chat is Anusha. She's living as a trans woman right now. Abel is a detransitioner. There's, I've so many detransitioners in all of this because, and they will tell you they were captured. They were convinced that this was the right course of action. But somewhere in them they knew that this was not right. The detransitioners could end all of this, but they won't talk to the detransitioners. The mainstream media is not going to talk to the detransitioners because they don't want to hear the truth. They want their way. They want it the way they want it. And it was the same for CRT. It's not happening. It's not, I mean, I've watched a woman get on Tucker Carlson and just go, "Oh, poor white people. You have to be, people are being mean to you." I mean, I was just like, "Whoa." That woman ended up losing her job, but she might not lose her job today. This is the stuff, and everybody that is listening needs to understand that the reason why we have gotten to this point is because they used the language against us. They re they reevaluated how they speak, and they use what I call parallel language messaging to completely revamp the way we speak and the way we understand language and the way we use linguistics in our everyday lives. And because of that fact, we have now gotten to a place where we have muzzled ourselves, because if we don't use the right language, then we might be labeled a racist or a transphobe or a homophobe. And one of the things, and hate him as much as you want, but one of the things that President Trump did give us was the power of 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 offensive speaking, and that your free speech is not free to speak nicely, but the free speech comes in the thing that needs to be protected is unpopular speech. Popular speech doesn't need to be protected. Unpopular speech needs to be protected. But we've gotten so civilized over the past few decades that we have let these people politely steamroll over us. And we have just kind of laid there and let them do it because it was the polite thing to do. Well, this is one of the reasons why I swear so much and don't care who hears it. This is one of the reasons why I say the things that I say and I don't care who hears it. I do try to respect the host when I'm in a space. If the host doesn't want that, I do try to respect that because I'm not a complete asshole. But at the same time,
I love it.
right?
That's hilarious. Yeah, I know. No, I love
Right.
it though.
But at the same time, when I first started coming into these spaces, I would just let it rip because people need to be desensitized. They need to be desensitized to all of this politeness. They need to be desensitized. And conservatives are equally as guilty. There is no innocent party in all of this. We all did it because we thought it was the right thing to do, and we thought it was the civilized thing to do. Just like doing too much for your children and not letting them learn some of the hard lessons in life. Now we're seeing maybe making them make their bed every day and maybe making them do the dishes every day is probably better for them than hiring that maid, right? That's some of the things that we have learned over the past few years, is that our children are not resilient because they've never had to struggle to come into their own in the natural progression, fully embodied in their personhood. And now we're seeing why that is so important and why indoctrination is so bad. SEL started out as a program that was supposed to help people. It was supposed to help children deal with their issues. But what we didn't know was that while you got somebody in your kid's brain, picking through their brain, they're also putting things in there that you don't want there. So, the mainstream media is not going to tell us this because the goal is to globalize, right? It's to destabilize the family so that we're all easier to control. They're trying to feed us bugs and shit. I mean, like
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's
you know
true. You're right.
that's what they're that's this is all interconnected. And I even have been I've even been able to speak with some of the hardline feminists who use hardcore pro-abortion, right? They used to be hardcore pro-abortion, but then it went from safe, legal, and rare to let's commit infanticide 8 days after the baby is born. What? I mean, there is a capture that has happened all throughout society. And and once people have gotten peaked and they've started to recognize it and they've started to see it for what it is, that's when people have started to say they've started to wake up. They've started to really pay attention. And I think that this has been spanning past political leanings and political lines. Even people who are liberal are starting to see, oh, the COVID thing is something not right with that. It was 2 weeks to slow the spread. Now they want to give us shots for the rest of our lives. They're starting to see that stuff. There are people that span all across political leanings, all across religions, races, all of it, and they're starting to see. And I mean, I think, and I will even say this, there are some things that Black people have been saying for years about the police, that that as conservatives we was just like, I don't want to hear that. That's just it's a bunch of nonsense. But now we're starting to see some of those things spill over into some other areas, and we're like, wait a minute, that's not right. We're starting to see that all over the world, and even in our own country. We're starting to see some of the things that other people had been talking about. But this is the thing, they've been keeping us separate and keeping us segregated and putting us all into our individual boxes so that we'll all behave and that we'll all just be warring with one another. It's time that we all start listening to each other. And it's not about a two-party system or none of that stuff. It's about the fact that we have stopped using language as our main source of connection and communication. We've started using our group think or our tribalism as our main way to communicate. If you're not saying the right thing, then you ain't Black enough. If you're not saying the right thing, then you're not gay enough. If you don't say the right thing, you're not conservative enough. You know, and when they did that, it was genius because we believed it and we lived it. But now we're all starting to see. We've got detransitioners in here. We've got gay people, lesbians. We've got people living as trans. We've got conservatives, Democrats, all in this space, listening to one another's perspectives because that is the way we should have been doing it all along.
Hey, real quick, I'm sorry, Jason. I want to put a bow on my thoughts, and then I will shut up. I promise, because I know there's still a couple hands up. Is that okay, Jason?
Yeah, I wanted to ask her a question. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Go for it, Jason. Or I can put a bow on mine and then go for it, Jason. I'm sorry. I'm very passionate about
Matthew. Put a bow.
I'm very passionate about this topic. People who truly believe their position should be able to present their side and debate it. Authoritarians want to silence. George, I'm so glad, Gabs, you brought up the language aspect of this. I think of 1984, George Orwell, and they called it newspeak, where they started changing the meanings of words. They started eliminating words, and that's what's going on now. You brought up Kara Dansky. I'm so glad you did. Big fan of hers. Very on the left, feminist, and she's written a book on this topic. No one in the media nobody in mainstream media will talk to her. The only person who will talk to Kara Dansky on a national level is Tucker Carlson.
Tucker Carlson, that's right. And
Abigail.
I did a protest with Kara Dansky a couple of weeks ago. It was in Philadelphia, and we got a lot of pushback. Nothing like what happened in Portland. I mean, in Port Townsend. But she and I, we went to battle together. You know what I mean? That was the first
Awesome.
time meeting her.
Well,
So yeah.
I just real quick, there's to my authoritarian thing. When you can't defend your position, then you aim to silence. That's why nobody talks to Kerensky. That's why Amazon employees are routinely trying to get Abigail Schreier's book off of Amazon to be able to purchase. That's why Amazon doesn't even sell the book. There's another book, great book, when Harry became Sally, that was written a few years prior to Abigail Schreier's book. That's not even available for sale on Amazon anymore. They want to silence because they can't defend their position, and that's my bow. Thank you so much.
Can I ask
Real
a
quick,
Can I ask
hold on. Yeah, raise your hand. Sorry, we got other hands that have been raised for a while, and I just want to make sure that they get to answer. Abel's next, but I just wanted to ask you, Gabs, when you were talking about free speech and silencing, did you see that Twitter blocked gays against groomers? They had like put them on a 12-hour ban or something. They were trying to permanently block them.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I did see that, and I've I've been in contact. I was in contact with James Lindsay before he got banned, and I've been in contact with Nicole Solis, and I'm still trying to convince people to take action in that area, because I do think we have legal recourse, but people are scared, and they don't want to rock the boat. And there's a lot of big foes out there with lots of money. So and Honey Badger, she had to leave. She sent me a DM. She had to leave. She said, she said, I'm sorry. She said, I'm so sorry I have to go to bed, but I just wanted to recommend everyone donate to you. I love hearing you speak, though. That's what she said. But one of the reasons why if she sees me in a space, she'll come in and she'll encourage people to donate to me, because this stuff, it has cost me about $1,500 to get here and do this. And I don't. This is all I do. And the reason, I mean, there were 350 counter protesters here to protest against us, and quite a lot of those people were paid and were brought in.
And
These
they
were
don't
not
live in Port
residents.
Townsend.
Yes, they were not.
They
These are
don't
not
live in Port.
residents.
That's a
Right.
small town.
Right. So these are not residents. These were people. These are a lot of these people. There's a picture of a man, and he has got all of his black bloc whatever on. He's got two walkie talkies and a earpiece and all of that stuff. This man he was orchestrating what was happening. He was telling these people what to do. And there was a bicycle parade with all of these Franken flags all over it, rolling through our demonstration here. Who paid for that stuff? All of this stuff that was going on, this wasn't just the community getting together to fight against us. This is big money that people are spending to take down our society. And the people in the people of our country need to realize that and fight back against it.
I love it, Gabs, and I'm honored that you're here. I'd love to have you back in a couple months again, if that's okay, just to keep talking to people as we're growing. If you can, we'll just work around your schedule, but you're always welcome here. Uh, uh, Abel, sorry, buddy, I blank for a second. Go ahead.
Hi everyone, my name is Abel Garcia. As Gabs did say earlier, I am a detransitioner. So I transitioned from male to female and back to male. I just wanted to say a few things. As much as I don't like the identity stuff, I will agree with Gabs that we need to have. Again, I don't like that minorities speak, but like minorities taking the first step on everything. So Gabs is a black woman. She did what she did in regards to CRT. I'm a detransitioner and I'm also Mexican with parents who were here illegally. So in regards to well, I think y'all know my point because these people in the media and their soldiers are gonna claim it's all white people and that we're all hateful and everything, but it's not just whites. It's everyone with a brain at least. Now, I think that's all I have to say on that topic. Gabs, I know you do take the donations from people, but I did notice that you also sell little cups. Do all that money regarding those cups, all of it go to you, or just so in case people who don't want to just donate and at least would like something back?
You know what? I don't get a nickel for those because I I priced them. People just wanted they wanted something that said yakety smackety on it. So so I just created something quick because they kept bugging me about the no yakety smackety. So I just created something quick, but I think I make $1 on those on those guys. I just did that for the people who just really wanted it. I felt weird about they wanted me to make merch, for my brand or whatever. And one of my colleagues, Petey, is in the space, and she has done a really wonderful job of the graphics on our website on revfox.com. And she and I will get together at some point when some of these things calm down and come up with some more graphics for some more merch so that, people can buy those things. And all of the proceeds will go towards all of the activism that we're ready. I think what we're working on next is we're going to take down the YMCA. But
Nice.
the money, every single nickel that I get is either I'm gonna eat it or I'm gonna fly on it or I'm gonna okay, like it just goes towards taking care of just the necessities to fight. And that's basically it. And there's been, I am trying to write a book so that because one of the things that I have seen is that a lot of these parents, I had a webinar. You can still see that the webinar for the detran to help your children to desist if they're presenting as with rapid onset gender dysphoria. And I did that, and it was a it was a huge success. But a lot of parents are still very afraid of showing their face and something like that. So I want to be able to write a book, and it's basically just a parenting guide, to show people how to parent their children out of the trendering. It's not for the people who have severe comorbidities, but it's more for the parents of the children who are presenting with rapid onset gender dysphoria, but they really do know that it is not like a true dysphoria, that it's to help your children, encourage your children to desist. So it's really more of a parenting book.
Awesome, Gabs. Let's go with Mar. She's had her hand up, and then Jeannie, and then we'll go to Astro.
Okay. Gabs, wow. The more I listen to you, the more I'm just like in awe of you. Your whole story and everything you've gone through, just wow. And the ability to talk about it so freely is just amazing to me, because more women need to stand up and talk about things like this. Because as a mom myself, we are the voices of our children, and if we're not standing up talking about it, somebody else is going to be talking to our children, and that's a fact. They will talk to our children. They will tell them how they think. They will misguide them into a direction that they don't need to go in, and we have no control because we aren't using our voices to protect them, or even just to like get involved, because most some in this day and age, most moms are busy with their work and other children and other things, and it's like it's really easy to get distracted. And it's admirable that you're taking the time to be the voice of children, and because what Jason said, it really is just about the kids. Like, as adults, you're free to do whatever you want, but when you start when you start getting involved in not only it's not even not only when you start getting involved in other people's children, you don't have a right to that. Nobody has a right to other people's children but their parents. And I really get peeved how, even just watching my own grandchildren, I get peeved how the system, the government, whoever wants to think that they have a greater say in your kid's livelihood than their parents. It's their parents' responsibility to grow them, raise them, do anything they need to do with their kids to get them to adulthood, and it's no one's business how you raise your children, and it's certainly not your business how to guide their children. I feel that teachers and schools need to just stick to what they're being paid for, and that's educate your children. And what Matthew was saying about how how people, it's groupthink and changing thinking, changing words. It's absolutely true, because I also feel like the media just indoctrinates people by repeating repetitive things over and over again to distract you from the truth. And even just like how they want to change the definitions of certain words to meet their agendas. They are constantly trying to manipulate us, and it's sick. And I just don't understand how we got here, first of all. But it takes people like you, Gabs, who are fighting for kids, fighting for our voices, and we we all have to be doing that in some form or another. And this group really helps because it helps educate people, and we learn things by talking and using our voices. When you sit silently, your kids are dragged through things they don't need to be dragged through. Like, and it makes me very hostile because, like I said, I'm a very protective mom, and I don't think it's right. And I feel like, I grew up in an era where we got to be kids. We were playing in the streets. I mean, the worst thing you had to worry about is, God, do we have to drink water out of the water hose? I mean, really, we didn't. We got to be kids and explore and just be children. Why can't our kids do that now? I mean, why are they being forced to do things that they shouldn't even be exposed to at such early ages? Let them be kids. And it just mind boggles me. Sorry, I didn't mean to rant, but yeah, Gabs, thank you so much for everything you've talked about tonight.
Thank you so much, honey. The ominous they, right? The ominous they, are they're they've been using, and I've said this, and I cannot express this enough. They use linguistics to manipulate society, and that we have to take that language back. We have to learn how to spot the parallel language mess, learn all about forced teaming, learn all about gaslighting, learn all about double speak and word cyclones and word salads, all of those things. Learn how to spot them so that you can learn how to defend yourself against them when it's happening. And I have seen and heard so many things, and one of the things that's me every time is the absolute truth. The absolute truth. When somebody says, well, trans women are women, okay, fine, keep his penis out of my bathroom. You don't have to, that's that's an irrefutable fact. I don't want a penis in my bathroom.
Don't
You know,
start. Do not start. Do not start the penis with the women. Please. Please. Let's just not go there. Let's just not go there. And let's agree that we don't need to go there.
That's what I'm saying. I don't want, let's leave them alone. Let's let them be where they're at. Let's keep them
Yeah,
out of the bathroom.
it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Let's keep them out of the bathroom.
Let's just say it's ridiculous.
Oh my
Right.
gosh, Astro.
I'm
Oh,
sorry. I'm
geez.
sorry.
No, you got us laughing. Jeannie, and then Astro. Go ahead, Jeannie.
I think one of the things that really bugs me when it comes to language, especially that they use in schools, is when they say uh, that we're your family. And anytime you hear that, I think parents need to push back. Your family are your parents, your other relatives, your school is, and your teachers are not your family. And for them to take that and to transpose that, thinking that they're not teachers, they're your family, is part of the problem when it comes to redefining words. And what you're doing, Gabs, is great. I just want to know if someone wanted to contribute, how did they do that?
Thank you for asking, honey. I put my pin post in the nest. That's at the top of your at the top of your screen there. My pin post has a link to my Give Send Go, but you can also go to my bio and there's a link tree, and in that link tree you can see all of the ways to contact me and all of the ways to donate. So there's buy me a coffee. I think my Patreon is in there. There's lots of different ways. If you DM me, then I'll give you the way a lot of my followers Zell me. Some of my followers buy me stuff from Amazon because they would rather buy me gifts than send money. And if you buy something off of my wish list on Amazon, a portion of those proceeds goes to No Left Turn in Education. That is the group that I started with that helped me help me find a lawyer, and that help put me into this position that I can help other people. And as far as what you were talking about, what you're talking about, the family thing, that's called love bombing. And that is also something that's also some of the information that you can find on revfox.com, REVFOXX.com. And all of the graphics are created by that gigglebot down below you named Petey, and she has been amazing. She has turned my all of my ideas into visuals, and she has been instrumental in my ability to express these things to the public. So go to redfox.com and you can see all about grooming versus safeguarding. You can we have Peter created this little thing called bananas, and it shows you exactly what kinds of people are involved in the trans identifying persons. There's all about parallel language messaging. It's not
Can I
everything, but it is quite a bit.
can I ask about something?
Sure.
All right. Can I ask about children and the, basically, like, honestly, let's not talk about how the $80 million of kids are being trafficked. Like, we have 80 million kids. Is that something that's not something that we don't want to know about?
Well, I mean, as it pertains to this particular subject, um,
Because it's really right there in front of our heads. And, like, can we just try to help this?
but I work. I
Somebody else has got their mic open. I think we're getting some feedback.
I'm sorry.
Try, can you hear Gabs?
do work with a group called Mama Bears Rising in.
Oh, it's Gab's internet that's kind of acting funny right now. Hold on, Gabs. Your internet's for some reason breaking up. I was wondering who. I know you were trying to talk, but we couldn't hear you.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me better
Yes.
now? Okay, yeah, Astro had her mic open. Okay, so we do, we do talk about how the indoctrination does in it does indeed lead to trafficking. Don't doesn't. You know, there are a lot of, and this is something.
Is everybody else hearing Gabs, or do you hear her being broke up?
I'm
It's
actually
broke up.
I'm hearing everything.
It breaks up.
It's broke up.
I'm
Can you hear
hearing
me better
everything.
now?
She's broke up.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes.
Okay, I switched internets. I switched my internet connection. But yes, so we have, there is, like I said, the pipeline, the TikTok to OnlyFans pipeline. So a lot of these kids, they get, they start their TikTok stuff, and then, it goes on for a few years. And once they realize that they're trans, they want to start medicalizing. And a lot of the times, if their parents are not supportive, then the then the TikTokers, the other TikTokers will teach them how to use their how to get an OnlyFans account and use their sexuality as a way to pay for their medicalization. So there's like there are those people who will, and this is what they tell the children. They tell them it's not your body. So
But
don't
that's
feel bad
the
about it.
that's the children's life. Like, you're done.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I mean, it's horrible. Like, it's terrible. This is what we're trying to put an
It's
end to
disgusting.
altogether. It's
It's
disgusting.
disgusting, and people don't realize it. It's disgusting.
More people are starting to realize it. That's why I continue to speak out, so that more people can see what's going on, so that more people will understand that this is not just about being kind, that there's more to it than that. Abel, you had something? Go ahead.
I'm gonna be honest, I forgot. I'm fighting with some TRAs right now, so I'm kind of multitasking. If I remember, I'll put my hands up.
Getting in them Twitter wars. I do it all the time.
Well, to be
I
fair,
get Gabs
Gabs.
involved in my Twitter wars when I need a fighter.
To be fair, Gabs, can you really blame me? I have creepy old people targeting Chloe, and they're getting mad that I'm now her Twitter bodyguard.
Chloe is, I'm very protective of Chloe as well. That's one of the reasons why, um, you know, Dr. Heller, blocked me on Twitter, is because I was sticking up for Chloe. Chloe is a detransitioner. She's 17 years old. She was
18.
one
She's
of
18 now.
18 now. She's 18 now. Yes. She was one of a dozen people who were called to speak to the Surgeon General of Florida, Dr. Ladapo, along with myself and Abel, along with Stella O'Malley and Miriam Grossman from What is a Woman. So all of us were called to this round table to give Dr. Ladapo our testimony so that he could come up with a better understanding of what gender ideology does in the negative, as a negative, because all you ever hear is about how wonderful it all is. So he listened to all of us. He listened to all of our testimonies, and now they have put things into practice and into place in Florida to stop gender affirming care as a go-to treatment for rapid onset gender dysphoria or any or any kind of transgenderism. Tavistock was shut down based on the Cass report in Britain. That also is because of reports that have come out of Finland and Sweden. I think in Hungary as well. So there's been a lot of people mobilizing all over the world to fight this, but we as Americans really need. I think this might be the issue that really does bring our society together against the tyranny, because what we saw over the last week, a bunch of punks, crowding around a group of 80-year-old women. I mean, these are people that need to be revered in our society. That's the way it used to be. We used to revere our octogenarians for their wisdom, for their contribution, for the paths that they created for us. And now we're treating them like dinosaurs and like antiques. No, we're not going to do that, and certainly not as long as I'm alive. I'm going to do every single thing within my power to eliminate and ruin the gender industry in America. And if I can manage it to bring to bring our society to some semblance of sanity.
And I respect that 100%, Gabs, and I love it. That's why I would like to have you on regularly to fight this on our space, because it's recorded. It will be on Rumble and YouTube. We're actually going through a transition to get it back on there because we lost somebody that was helping us with that, but we'll be back on it. Katz and I are working on it. And so we'd love to have you on. I think people need to hear it. I think people need to continue to hear it. People don't want to hear it. It's not like we're going to do it every week, but every couple months, I think people need to be reminded of the fights that we have to go through to keep things right in this country. So your fight is our fight. I'm sure Kat agrees with that, right, Kat?
Oh, heck yeah.
We're gonna fight with you, Gabs. You've got the conservative political forum on your side, big time. So I wanted to give able to talk to you, Gabs, and then I wanted you to be able to close out with any final thoughts you may have, and then Katz will close out, and then I will close us in prayer. And stop by the forum anytime you want, Gabs. If you have an update on anything you want to bring up, we'd love to hear it. We're on weekly. We never fail. It's every Wednesday. So we'd love to see you stop by just to bring us updates if you have them. So go ahead, Abel, and then Gabs, you can close out with whatever you have to say, and then it's on to Katz, and then I'll close in prayer.
I probably don't recall exactly what I was going to say in the first place, but what I wanted to say now is, as a detransitioner, obviously I know everything that's going on with this insanity. So if anyone here, if you guys want support, you are all welcome to send me a DM. I'll talk to anyone, especially if you have a relative who is currently transitioning and at least wants some support. I know how hard this is for everyone. Now, for Gabs, don't make yourself sound older. Just because you were in Port Townsend, you're not 80. You don't look a day over 21, okay?
Hey, well, I love you so much. Look, let me tell you something. My back is achy. I'm one of my fingers is crooked. Yeah, I don't think it's gonna go, but I'm tired. I feel 80. But you know what though? Seriously, I felt proud. I felt really proud to stand with those women who who were empowered by watching Ruth Bader Ginsburg back in the 70s fight for sex-based rights. These women, let me tell you something. When I asked, I said, I said, Julie, can I call you Mama Julie? And you know what she told me? She said, well, I called myself the warrior crone, but you can call me whatever. And I was just like, oh, that's a tough old bird. She was one of the protesters against the Vietnam War. She's a lifelong activist. She's a lifelong liberal. She was one of those women who you would have seen on TV back in the day fighting for women's rights. And it's a shame that she has to do it again 50 years later. But I was proud to stand next to her and hold my hand on her back while she spoke because those people were trying to silence her.
Dory asked her, Gabs, on the radio today. He said he said, so if you could go back and not say anything, would you do that? And she goes, I couldn't do that. When I know what's wrong, I know what's not right. And she basically said, no, I would not. I have to speak out when I see something that I shouldn't see. So what do you think of that, Gabs?
Hey, listen, one of the very first interviews that I did, one of the very first interviews that I did, um, this was very early on, and it was with print media. I don't really do a whole lot of print media because they lie, but um, this was before I knew any better. But the reporter said, why are you doing this? And I was like, what the hell do you mean? Why am I doing this? Because it's what you're supposed to do. Isn't this what you're supposed to do? When there's something wrong, aren't you supposed, if you see something wrong, aren't you supposed to do everything you can to fight against it? We're Americans. This is wrong. Why is that a stupid question? Everybody should be doing this. And that's what drew me to Julie because she didn't care what that meant. She stood out in front of those people, even when the police abandoned us, even when there were men, grown men, trying to hurt her. She still stood there. She still stood there and she said her piece. She has to live here too. So this is not over for her. I can go home and never have to deal with this again if I don't want to. But she has to live in this place. And I feel like everybody in America has a duty to do the right thing and to stand up against this. And if you're too afraid or you're too scared of getting canceled or your job or whatever, then for heaven's sakes, send the people who are fighting the money to fight with so that we're at least not spending all of our time fundraising so that we can fight these people. This is the time. This is the fight. You cannot avoid it anymore. Nobody can. And I don't feel like I was brave. I don't feel like I did anything braver than anybody else would have. But I think that we have gotten to a place where we've been told our bravery is arrogance. Fuck that. We're Americans. Stand up for your rights, everybody.
Man, I love it. That gives me chills. Thank you, Gabs. And like I said, we're standing with you. Katz, you got anything to say?
I don't think I can follow that up, Jason. um, I mean, I thank you, Gabs. Is that wonderful? That's why I'm doing that top 5 that we talked about at 8:30 and we talked about last week because we some of our elected officials, they're not strong. And we, as the public, remember, they're serving us. They need to serve us. Get back to what you're supposed to be doing. Get our America back again. We've got to do that. We've got to really fight. And so, thank you for those who contributed to that section earlier. I will be working on that again. And remember, it is just a top 5 list because, there's so many things going on. I really wish I had a top 10 because a lot of things we talked about, would be that. But I'm hoping that as we light fires under these politicians, that other things will be taken care of as well. So I'll see what I can do about additional integration. I integrated election stability from last week's conversation into the reestablishing, safety in our cities from last time. So I'll see what I can do more about this. And thank you, everyone, for being here. It's a great honor to be with you, to have you with us, for you sharing your heart and your soul with how you feel about this country. And again, thank you, Gabs, and thank you for Jason for the opportunity to be your partner in crime.
Yes, and we're gonna, we're gonna keep going. Abel, I'm honored to hear what you've been, what you've been through and how you've been able to detransition, and and you're more than welcome to come here sometimes and share your story. And we just want to be, we need to unite. This is the way we unite. This is how we unite. We do what we have to fight. I went through some stuff in my past too, and it made me a fighter now. Like, I will not back down. I will not back down. You can, if the government comes for us with IRS agents, they better be ready for a fight with me. And I don't mean like I'm going to get in their face and fight. That's not what I'm meaning. I mean, I will roll with what needs to happen, but I'm not going to be afraid and cower down and do what they say that I need to do. That's not what we're saying when we say fight, right, Gabs? We're not saying we're going to go out and fight them. We're saying we'll fight them the way that it's supposed to be done, and we'll protest and we'll do the things we need to do.
Absolutely. I tell people all the time, we don't have to be in a kinetic war. We're already in a culture war. And in this war, the pen is truly mightier than the sword. So you need to get in there and learn how to fight. If you don't know how, then you get with me, get 10 of your friends together, set up a Zoom. I will show up. I will teach you how to fight. I will teach you exactly what to do to fight against your schools, to start up a protest. There's all kinds of ways to activate yourself.
That's great. Maybe we'll do a space where you can teach people how to fight, Gabs. If you're down with that, I'll open a space for that, and you can just run away with it.
Sure thing. Sure thing.
All right.
I will do it. Hey, listen, we've already had success. One of the women that I met in this space, she filed a lawsuit. Her lawsuit is worth millions of dollars too. And she didn't think she could do it. She didn't think she had a lawsuit. But when I talked to her, it took me a long time to convince her, but she filed a lawsuit. And at the very first hearing, she got a big win. So
Nice.
it's you, all you have to do is just activate yourself. That's it. That's all you have to do. You just have to get mad enough and say, I'm not going to take this anymore. Find out what it is that you can do or what it is that you want to do. Get with me and I'll teach you how to do it.
I love it. And I want to add to that before I close in prayer that when people have been through stuff like Gabs and I have been through, I'm telling you, that's make me cower. When the pandemic hit, because I had been through some serious stuff in my past before, that was nothing to me. The pandemic was like, pfft. Other people were going through hell and fear, and I was not, because I'd been through some stuff that was worse. And I'm like, this is nothing, like this ain't gonna stop me from fighting. And so when you go through things, it makes you stronger, and I can this maybe that's why. And I know Katz feels the same way, guys. We really admire your fight, and it's because we we know it. We've been through some things in our lives too, and I know many of you in this room have, and many of you, not just us, but many of you have. And so just remember, I mean, we're all here to support each other. And like Gabs says, I want to promote Gabs because if you want to give to her, you can. She's got her website and stuff, and she's starting an organization. Let's support her big time, because she's going to be fighting, and we're all with her, and her DMs are open if you have questions. So just she's on it. So let's close in prayer, and then we'll be back next week for the forum, and and we'll just we'll keep in touch with you, Gabs, and have you come back and give us updates when you can. And also we'll do another 2-hour special in a couple months, because we have new people coming all the time, and people just need to hear it, and it's a good reminder for us that have heard it already. So I know I like to listen. So Father God, I just thank you for everybody in this room. And I thank you for the fights that everybody has gone through in their lives. I pray that they're being sharpened so that they can go out and fight for other people, just like Gabs is doing, Lord. I thank you that you are giving the tools that people need to not be in fear of our government, but rather rise up and say, no, enough is enough. We're going to stand up for our country. We're going to stand up for what's right. I thank you, Lord, that if people are living in fear, that you have not given them a spirit of fear, as your word says, but of power, love, and a sound mind. And I just thank you that everybody will rise up and fight in the way that they're supposed to fight, not with physical swords or that kind of fighting, but with the tools to be able to stand up for other people like Gabs is doing, Lord. Let's have some more fighters like Gabs come out of this room and rise up and be ready to stand up for more Americans. We're bringing our country back. We say this United States belongs to you, Lord. It was founded on you. We're going to bring it back to the center and stop having kids be indoctrinated. I pray you protect the kids of the United States from this filth that is being shoved down their throats every day, from the CRT, the things that the enemy would like them to learn. Rather, we will fight for them. Thank you that you are protecting the kids. In your name we pray for everybody here, that everybody has a good night and that they rest well and sleep well. In the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
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 Thank you, Gabs.
Thank you so much for having me, Jason. I really appreciate it. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabs.
Thank you, Cats. Thank you.
You bet. Good night. Thanks.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for being here.
Good night.